Alright, so today, as soon as I get this set up here, I'm gonna go into point four. We'll talk a little bit about point four, right? Um, and again, 10 points of recovery. 10 points of recovery is about energy management. Um, how to quit wasting your time and wasting your energy on the faulty ideas and the things that's holding you back. It is blocking you from those things that you really want out of life. Right? And so point four is about how we deal with people. A lot of us, we have this blame, that we put on others. It's always somebody else's fault. You know what I'm saying? And it's not saying, I'm not saying that things don't happen, that life doesn't show up. And, because it's real. We got people out there who don't want to see us succeed. They don't want to see us shine. They don't want to see us look good. There's even people out there that want to see us hurt. They want to take our life from us even, right? However, the ultimate, the beauty in that, and your ultimate power is that the final decision is based on you. So final decision is based on you. Nobody gets to define you, right? So I'm gonna get into people, and I'm gonna talk about this term. It's a relatively new psychological term. I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna talk about stress, stress response, fight, flight, or flee, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about children. And then, I'm going to wrap it up. But just to jump right into it, okay, there's this term that I came across, a relatively new psychological term. If I'm not mistaken, it was coined around 1997. However, it's something that people have been dealing with for centuries. And then, of course, Western science and medicine, certain people, they want to lay claim to just about everything. We know how that goes. But this term is called sugrophobia. And what it translates into, basically, is the fear of being taken advantage of, fear of looking like a sucker. What it translates from the Latin sugrophobia it's literally the fear of sucking, right? So this is that fear that we have when we think somebody's trying to take advantage of us. You think somebody's trying to play you like a sucker, right? An example of it, right? Let's say you riding down the street, you stop your car, you pull over at the light, you see somebody you went to high school with. They're not looking so good. They balmy or whatever, clothes job, dirty, and they come up on you. They run up on you with the story. Yo, yeah, I mean, I'm doing bad, man. Time's hard, man. You think you could throw me about $5? I'm hungry, man. I need to get me something to eat. Now, a whole lot of us, because of this fear of being taken advantage of, a whole lot of us may just say no altogether. I ain't got $5, so. But then a lot of us too will be like, no, I ain't giving you $5, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take you to McDonald's. So you put this brother in your car or sister in your car, you roll up on McDonald's with them, and you end up spending $10, $20 because let's just be honest, can't no adult eat for $5, not in 2023. right? And you think about it, all they asked you for was 5. But because you're afraid of being taken advantage of, you're afraid of this fear. You're afraid of it, looking like a sucker, looking like a chump. You end up spending more money. You see, the thing about this fear is it's just like most fears. It's irrational, you know. And so this is one of the keys to helping us deal when we start dealing with people, because this kind of thing presents itself in a whole lot of situations, doesn't it? It presents itself in business practices. It presents itself in relationships, whether they're platonic or whether they are sexual or romantic relationships. A lot of times you have this feeling like somebody is trying to take advantage of you. And what I want to emphasize about fear, okay, is that fear, excuse me for a minute, I put these glasses on. Fear is stress. Fear is stress. It's a stressor. And fear, stress, all stressors, regardless of what it is, whether it's fear, anger, sadness, you feel like you're being discriminated against, whatever the stressing situation is, all stressors have the exact same origin. That origin is a rise in cortisol. Right? You feel that rise in cortisol, you get that stressing feeling, and the reason why we interpret it differently is because it goes to a different part of the brain where you decide what this is that you're feeling. You know, somebody said the wrong thing based depending on your personality. You decide to get angry, or you decide to get away from them, or you freeze, right? So, there's a way to deal with stress. There's a way that we can control stress. And that's what we talk about in the 10 points of recovery, is how to control the stress. Because, see, the thing about it is once you get that rise in cortisol, once we begin to get stressed out, it doesn't just affect you physically. Make your heart race, or make you scared, make you jittery, or make you angry and see red. It doesn't just affect you in those terms, but it also affects the way you think. When you get this rise in cortisol, you begin to get stressed out. You don't really know how to cut it down. We think differently. You think differently, don't you? A lot of times you let people talk you out of things. You let people make you afraid of being who you are. You let people scare you away from the things that you really, really want out of life, or make you think that you're not worth what you really want, you know. When I grow up, I want to be a hip-hop star. I want to be a beautician. I want to be a chef. I want to be a paleontologist, whatever. And somebody told you, you can't do that. That creates stress. You see what I'm saying? So, because of this stressful way of thinking, because of these feelings that you don't know how to deal with, you don't know how to control, that shifts your thinking. As the way you was on track and you was on line to your purpose and going to get that thing that you really wanted, now you get a different train of thought, right? So 10 points of recovery is about how we talk about how to control that, so that doesn't become a ruling factor in your life. But I want to get into that a little bit, you know. And then because there's some things that I see, you know, that annoy me, and I understand it. And I just want to speak on it a little bit, you know. You had these stressors a lot of times. course, we have stress response. High stress response is fight or flight or flee. And it's one thing when you face these stressors and you decide to get away from the stress, you flee. That's one thing. I'm not always saying that's the right thing to do. Fighting can be just as detrimental. We talk about people that run, and in our culture, we glorify the fighters, right? We glorify the people that's on sight, that'll swing, at this burning moment, but those people have their own issues also. A lot of times people who flee, if you flee, and let's not get it twisted or be unfair about it, anybody is capable of anything. We all have the same range of emotions, but in any given situation, when a person flees as opposed to fighting, a lot of times we look down on that. But the main thing about it, and then, of course, when people freeze up in the face of danger, I don't know what to do. We really look down on that. But in any event, when we give in to that, fight, flight, or freeze, it's important to recognize that what we're dealing with is something that's primal. We're dealing with something that's animalistic, and as human beings, we got the capacity to think bigger, and we got the capacity to do bigger things, and stand up to that fear. But fighting or running away from fear is not necessarily standing up to it. Just because you fight don't mean you stood up to the fear, right? So what's important to understand, and going back to this term, right, we feel like we're being taken advantage of. We get this fear, somebody said something, or, in any kind of situation, we may feel intimidated, right? And we feel the stress level, and this stress makes us feel some type of way. And a lot of times you get these people who feel like, where they taking the high road because they submit or they back down or they just let a person have their way. Well, I'm taking the high road here. And if you're not dealing with that, if you don't understand what's going on with you and how to deal with that stress, what happens is we start dealing with a problem that we talk about in point 2. You take all this crap from the world, you take all this crap from other people, and you internalize it. And then what's sad, if you begin to feel like that's what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to take shit from others, right? From the world, from other people. You're supposed to back down, okay? Not realizing, because true indeed, it's wise to be able to pick your battles, but it's a way to deal with it, and it's a way to do it so that you don't become frustrated, right? And so we take on this stress. You take on this other people's garbage that they give to you because they know that you're going to take it. And then we had this problem with release. See, the thing about it is you're going to release that stress somewhere, somehow. And the sad part is that a lot of times we release that stress onto the people that don't deserve it. Case in point, the people that's trying to help you, the people that's there for you. You know what I mean? Somebody offers their hand out to you. I want to help you out. And that's a safe. You look at that, you're seeing that as real safe. You got all this pent up aggression, all this hurt, this pain, and this fear. And it's safe for you to lash out, bite the hand that feeds you. Right? And that's unhealthy, It's unhealthy for you, but it's also unhealthy because then what happens is the people that want to help you out before, then they learn not to deal with you. They can't mess with you. But then, also, in another point that I want to go into briefly, is when we deal with our children, right? And so I just want to make it abundantly clear that, I know and understand, nobody is a perfect parent. None of us had perfect parents, um, and none of us are perfect parents. None of us are going to do everything right. But the key is in what is it that you are doing with your children. Okay, you got these children. What is it that you're trying to get from them? Okay, because if you got children and you thinking that you raising a companion, you raising a buddy, okay, or some people, some people just deliberately don't care and want to take out their aggressions and different things on their children. That's become detrimental. What that is that's selfish. So the point or the question to ask is, what is it that you're trying to do here? Are you trying to use your child for your own personal self-gratification? And when I say that, what I'm talking about is do you just want somebody for yourself? Or do you want to help this person become the best that they can be? And so when you put things into those kinds of terms, okay, you can see it for what it really is. Because the bottom line is that the child is not your child. That ain't your child. And see, it irritates me, and this is the reason why I want to speak on this, is because you hear a lot of people talk about, oh, what about children? And everybody wants to bring up the children and all of these different types of scenarios. We want to talk about these agendas and how the media is doing this, that, and the third to these children. They're trying to brainwash our children and all these different kinds of things, and it sounds really, really good. But then when you bring up this, when you ask for something for the children, somebody needs some money for the children. When you hear people talking about child support, they totally forget about the children. They make it about the partners. Oh, what she's going to do with it, or what he's going to do with it. And they talk about like it's punishment, and we forget that there's a child involved here. Men want to be nurturers. Women think that they're doing you some damage or hurting you because, oh yeah, well, I'll put them up for child support, but child support ain't that much, first of all. So it's obvious that a lot of times people use these children as a means for self-gratification, live vicariously through children, or use children to manipulate, other people and all these different kinds of things. So it's important to answer the question, what is it that you're trying to do? Because when you have a child, it's not your child. You don't own that person. You have a responsibility to that person to help that person become self-sufficient. And take them to the door, to that threshold of adulthood. So the bottom line is that once that child begins to feel like they're smarter than you, or they can do things on their own, they don't need you anymore, then you have done your job. You've successfully done your job, and that's it. So that's why when we start talking about the stress and the stress level, and I realize I'm not being unrealistic here. I realize none of us are perfect parents. None of us had perfect parents. We got to learn to let the things that we went through as children go. If our parents did the best that they could with what they had, hey, we were lucky. But also, what are you doing with your children? You see, and if you recognize the fact that, oh, I'm stressed out and, I took something out on my child, I yelled at my child, I did this, I wish I hadn't done this right this way, I wish I hadn't done this, thanks, D. I wish I had done things differently. Then what you need to do is better yourself. Because, see, I said something once, the best we can do is the best we can do. True indeed. But we can also better ourselves, right? We can also better ourselves, and that's why I wrote 10 points of recovery. Um, so, um, yeah. So we take on this stress, and a lot of times some of us feel like, we taking the high road because we just take it all in and we actualize it, but that's not necessarily healthy. So I wrote about stress relieving techniques and different things to do, but the main thing, the initial thing to do is to understand when you start feeling that feeling like somebody's trying to play me. They think this about me, and you start to feel that fear of being played, taken for a sucker. The initial thing to remember or to realize is that what somebody thinks about you can't hurt you. See, because that's what stress is all about. Stress is evolutionary. Stress, the reason why we feel stressed out is because those are the kind of things that's there to help keep us alive. Once upon a time, that's all we had was that fear. It saved us in the savannah and the forest, different things like that. That's what you see animals go through. When an animal look at you and he go back and he looking for the right time to strike. So when we allow that stress to control us and we don't know how to deal with it, we're dealing on a primal level. But as human beings, we had a capacity to think greater. We had a capacity to think greater. So what you need to realize initially, just to explain that a little bit, what the thing to do or to realize initially is that thoughts can't hurt you. What somebody thinks about you can't hurt you. Okay, if I gave that guy that I went to high school with $5, right? If I say, hey, I give him $20, and he's like, yo, thanks, man. Yeah, go get me a bag of joint. Yeah, a 40 with this, and he run off. And I'm thinking, damn, he told me he was going to get something to eat. Well, even if he does that, that is not going to hurt me. So that's how you begin to extinguish that anger and that resentment. Oh, he played me. He got away with me. And something else that I wanted to get into, too, because everybody don't run, right? Everybody don't freeze. And December hollered at me, thanks, D. I always think about my little cousin when I start talking about people like this, because she was a fighter, right? But some of us, we feel that stress, and we quick to lash out. We quick to fight, right? What stands out to me the most is in relationships, man. I was reading something the past day where it was talking about these relationships and how they get volatile. And something that was saying, yeah, I'll talk about you. But I was reading something, right? Check it out. No, I ain't gonna tell that story. But I was reading something the other day, and it was talking about these relationships and how they get volatile, right? And she said this quote, she made this quote, she talked about how men, we are afraid that women are going to laugh at us. And that's true. I think that's probably, as a man, that's probably one of the biggest things I can think of. I mean, going all the way back to as far as I can remember, how the women in your life think about you, their opinion of you. As soon as you old enough, you go to school and you wonder what the girls say about you, that really, really means a lot to us. I mean, to the point that once a man stop caring what the women think about him, he's on his way to becoming a hermit, right? So that's really, really important to us, and it hits us at the very core. And she said, and that's just half of the saying now. She said that men, we are afraid of women laughing at us, but women are afraid of men killing them. And it kind of, the irony of it is kind of makes it a little comical, but really it's not funny because, you know, in the reality, when we look at the reality of things, it's a whole lot of women that's dead behind that. A whole lot of men that's in prison because it was with a woman, or the woman laughed at them, or the woman rejected them, or, you know, she didn't validate his feelings, or when a woman cheats on us, and we think that has something to do with us, right? That's that fear. That's sugarphobia, because word. Mm-hmm. But when we feel like that, that's that fear that we getting played, right? She's laughing at us, and that hurts to the very core. So again, it's important to remember that what that woman thinks about you cannot hurt you. That's how you control that. What she thinks, and I mean, regardless of what she did, maybe she slept with you, and on the same day she went and slept with your best friend. Okay, then she went to her girlfriend's house, and they laughed about it, and laughed at you, and just called you a real loser, right? Even if that's the case, and I'm not saying that that's the case, but even if that's the case, it's important to understand that that scenario does not put your life in jeopardy. It is not dangerous. So there's no need to fight her. There's no need to be aggressive towards her. You see what I'm saying? And so with stress relieving techniques, once you understand that, once you tell yourself, because a lot of times we need to tell ourselves that, and so once you tell yourself that and you recognize these stressful situations for what they are, hey, wait a minute, this situation is not life-threatening. I don't have to run from it. I don't have to fight nobody. I don't have to lock up. You control that stress level. You're able to think better. You're able to think more clearly. And see, this is how we get out of those obstacles. You know, because see, there's a whole lot of humps in the ground. There's a whole lot of people walking around with poor health. There's a whole lot of people in prison because they couldn't get past these stressors. We feel this stress. We feel these emotions, right? And they take us out of our normal, natural way of thinking, and we do things. One moment of pleasure. One crazy time, you know, and you end up paying the consequences. Sometimes a lifetime. You could lose your life, you know. So regardless of whether you a fighter or you like to take flight or you like to freeze, and most of us are all three, okay, at some point or another, it's important to recognize stress for what it is, right? And remind yourself that these things can't hurt me. These things aren't real threats to me. See, because that fear of being taken advantage of, that fear of being taken for a sucker or being played is just like most fears. It's irrational. It's not really life-threatening. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you, right? And so once we acknowledge that, we can practice these stress-relieving techniques in 10 points of recovery. And we can think clear, or we can stay on the road to our goals. Man, thanks, D, for joining in. And, you know, with that, man, I don't think I left out anything. With that, man, I'm going to let it go. So, y'all be easy. One.